Hi, I'm Stuart Wright. In this video, I'm going to show you various ways to play the B chord on guitar. Now, like the key of F, B is a bit more of a challenge because there aren't any easy open position chord shapes that you can use for B. And this is perhaps one reason why there aren't so many great guitar tracks written in the key of B. But there is Ray Parker Jr.'s Ghostbusters, of course. So we're going to start with some open position shapes around the B, and then we'll move on to some more advanced ideas. We'll start in the open position with a really common shape for a B7, this one. And that gets used all the time in blues in the key of E, where the B7 is the 5 chord of E. Let's take a look at the fingering. We've got the second finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, the first finger on the 1st fret of the D string, the second finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. We keep the B string open, and then we have the 4th finger on the 2nd fret of the high E string. And the root for that chord is the B on the 2nd fret of the A string here. So the big challenge there is to keep that B string, that 2nd string, ringing open when you strum down. So when playing this chord, make sure you arpeggiate it slowly so you can hear every note in the chord to make sure it's sounding. And if that B string is muted, just try moving the 3rd finger, because it's probably the underside of the 3rd finger which would mute it like this. So just rotating the finger and the wrist can help clean up that chord shape from here to here. This next shape is perfect for pop, soul, R&B and funk. We're going to play a B major triad on the G, B and E strings, and you'll see how this is also part of a bar chord in a moment. So we're going to play this shape. And the root for this chord is the B on the 4th fret of the G string. And I'm playing that with my 3rd finger on the G string, 4th finger underneath it on the 4th fret of the B string, and the 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the high E string. If you feel comfortable with that chord, try adding one more note to the shape. We're going to put the 2nd finger on the 4th fret of the D string, like this. And of course, you can see that as an A-shaped chord, just 2 frets higher. And now the 5th of the chord, the F sharp here, is the lowest note in that shape. And when playing that chord, make sure that you only play the top 4 strings. If you add the A string, you'll get a totally different effect. So just aim for these 4. You can also play the B triad higher up the neck of fret 7 and 9 like this. So we have a partial bar from the index finger on the 7th fret of the E and B strings. The 2nd finger is on the 8th fret of the G string. And we have the root of the chord, the B, on the 9th fret of the D string with the 3rd finger. We can go from that triad to form a full bar, because basically that triad is effectively most of the bar chord shape anyway. So we're going to go to this E shape B major bar chord, still at fret 7, but now we have the index finger all the way across the 7th fret, from the low E to the high E, and we have this E-shaped chord within the bar as well. So we've gone effectively from an open E chord shape up to here. But remember, with bars, we want to work that index finger, rolling it slightly to get onto the side of the finger, to get onto the bony side of the finger, to help us get a little bit more impact and help us press down those strings a little bit more effectively. And with those bar chord shapes, remember to play each string individually. You want to hear if the bar is in place to begin with. If you're losing the notes on the B and the E strings like this, then just try putting a bit more pressure and straightening the finger. And also make sure there's enough pressure from the remaining fingers to sound the A, D and G strings to get that full chord in place. Next, we'll go to an A-shaped bar chord at the 4th fret and the 2nd fret. We're going to play this shape. And that's basically the triad that we had earlier, but now with the first finger bar reaching over to the A string as well at the 2nd fret. And as with the previous bar chord, roll that index finger just slightly onto the side to make sure the bar is clean. Some players ignore the high E string when playing that shape as well. They'll really just focus on the A, D, G and B strings. And some will even use the 3rd finger to play a partial bar across the 4th fret of the D, G and B. And again, they'll ignore the 1st string, the E string. But if the 3rd finger is placed correctly with the bar, you can get the high E string sounding as well. But if you find that uncomfortable, I wouldn't worry about that high E. So whilst we don't have an open B major chord shape, we do have this gorgeous B minor 7 we can play in the open position, like this. And that's got the 1st finger at the 2nd fret of the A string, the open D string, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, and the 4th or 3rd finger at the 3rd fret of the B string. But if playing that chord, make sure you only play the A, D, G and B strings. If we play the E strings, we get a totally different sound. And finally we can play a B minor 7 bar chord up at the 7th fret like this. And this shape is great for working on the bar. We've got an index finger bar across fret 7, all strings, and then the 3rd finger on the 9th fret of the A string. So we have to make sure the bar is firmly in place. Just applying a little bit of pressure between the index finger, between the 1st finger and the thumb on the back of the neck. And then add that 3rd finger in. But make sure that 3rd finger isn't blocking the 4th string like this. So if you're losing that, just roll onto the tip of the 3rd finger. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope that video has helped. B chords are a little bit more of a challenge than things like E, A, C and D because we can't play so much in the open position, but you will encounter them in many songs, so make sure you really focus on practicing these too. Remember to subscribe to Guitar World and I'll see you on the next set of videos. Take care.